Okay, hello. First, I will tell you there's a link in the comments section that will take you to the contact page for your senator, no matter what state you are located in. Now, the 25th Amendment, Section 4, allows for public to request the removal of a sitting president by their elected officials. And those elected officials that fail to listen to the public could result in them not being reelected. If we make it clear that the felon is making reckless and dangerous decisions that weaken the safety and security of America and Americans, both domestically and across the globe. After this video, click the link in the comments section to note in the comments section to begin. Note, keep in mind exactly what you want to communicate, as their contact pages often have a lot of verbiage and you may need to scroll a lot. Many of their web pages have self-promoting ads and lots of general issues that people have strong feelings about, and that may have a tendency to deter you. But please stay focused on having the president removed from power based on Section 4 of the 25th Amendment. Be specific in requesting that desired outcome, that the felon be removed from the White House as he is making reckless and dangerous decisions that are harming American citizens and America, ruining partnerships once we had across the globe, and that threatens the safety and security of Americans domestically and all over the world. During this video, you will hear the leadership from Japan. But one note before I play that video I will make is that as of now, the USS Ronald Reagan CVN-76 is the only U.S. aircraft carrier that is permanently forward deployed outside the United States and is based at a naval base in Japan. That deployment is part of the U.S. Navy's 7th Fleet, which operates in the Indo-Pacific region. The presence of the carrier in Japan allows the U.S. to respond quickly to crises in East Asia and maintain a strong deterrent posture in the region. Now, if the felon's actions should be the ignition that should prompt Japan to not welcome our naval forces anymore, then that could be very detrimental. I believe that we need to stop this before it's too late. And any elected official that does not stand up to the wannabe dictator is guilty of assisting in destroying America, because they could have or should have done or said something. Please watch this video. You will see the leadership in Japan stating that a great partnership with America is badly damaged by the actions of Trump. Japan now sees the U.S. as unstable. And I agree, because the direction that the felon may take is like a ball in a pinball machine. There's little to no indication which direction it will go. Please watch the rest of this video.
Wow, a lawmaker in Japan from their opposition party just gave a powerful speech in their House of Representatives, smacking down Donald Trump, calling him an extortionist, comparing him to a mobster. This speech went hard. The opposition lawmaker's name is Shinji Aguma. And in this speech, he's talking to the governing party, and he's saying, be very careful and mindful in your negotiations with Trump, who you are dealing with. Do not give in to the Trump regime, because like an extortionist, they come back for more. They view your good faith as a sign of weakness. Now, Shinji Aguma tells the governing party, look, I know you're busy, but if you have time, go watch documentaries on Donald Trump. Study his behavior in the past. Look at what he's bankrupted before. Note that he's a felon, a sexual abuser, someone who's been found civilly liable for fraud, someone who's a felon who's been found criminally liable for business records fraud. Watch this speech. It's courageous. It's in their House of Representatives. We've dubbed it in AI so you can actually hear the speech. We also have the subtitles as well. Sorry to our Japanese viewers that we're not playing it. It's in original language, but I want everybody to watch it so you can understand what this lawmaker is saying. Wow, 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 indeed. Here, play this clip.
What the United States is saying is completely unreasonable. The logic is all over the place and there's no consistency. However, when Japan negotiates regarding what they're saying, Well, to put it clearly, it's close to extortion by juvenile delinquents. If Japan gives in and follows their unreasonable demand, saying it's negotiation or a deal, it will set a bad precedent and create a negative example. If the extorter gains money once, it's certain that they will extort again. The formula itself is a complete mess. I wasn't great at math, but if that showed up in a math exam, it would definitely score 0. That's why, although Minister Akazawa is serious and capable, there is also concern about whether a serious person can handle it. Since they are not reasonable, they won't listen to reasonable things. Although I said every option, you absolutely must not provide information to an unreasonable opponent. If you get concessions that way, it will set a bad example. Anyway, please do not give in to the extortion from the US, though it's really bad to say, but this is extortion. If we listen to this, it will really become a bad example. I know Minister Iwata may not have time, but there are various online broadcasts, and there's a documentary about Roy Cohn, the lawyer who raised him, and there's a documentary about Mr. Trump as well. Please watch those if you can. What kind of person Mr. Trump is? At the time when I want you to know a bit about him, just by watching it, you really think, oh, so that's the kind of person he is. And during the review of tariff this time, he casually went to play golf at his own golf course. Senator Molonek, in normal conclusion I struggled with, is really mocking the world. Well, yeah, Minister Akazawa is also a serious person, and Mr. Aiwaya is a serious minister too. So if you seriously engage with that aspect, you'll just get into trouble. Please, Minister Iwaya, remember how lively you were in your younger days. Even now, I would like Minister Iwaya, with his lively and spirited nature, to demonstrate that assertiveness in negotiations with the United States. I ask you to promise not to yield to extortion. This concludes my questions. Thank you very much.
I think the tariff measures by the United States are still in a very fluid stage, changing rapidly like a daily menu, as you already know.
Okay, now he said things are changing like a daily menu, suggesting that the United States or the person that is president right now, there's no direction, there's no indication of what direction that he may go in, and he's suggesting that the United States is unstable.
It's not a situation where we can definitively say it will definitely continue in a certain way. I believe it is important to seek a review through negotiation efforts.
Told you that speech went hard. Now, I want to reflect on an interview that we did here on the Midas Touch Network 2.5 weeks ago with the former ambassador of Japan, Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel also served as the mayor of Chicago. He was the chief of staff to former President Obama. But as the ambassador to Japan, he knows about all these issues. And here at the Midas Touch Network, we were flagging these issues many, many weeks ago. Here's what Ambassador from Japan, told us. This was 2.5 weeks ago when he told us this. Play this clip.
First, Japan's the number one foreign direct investor in the United States for the last 4 years consecutively. Over a million Americans work for Japanese companies, and nearly half of their investment goes to manufacturing. So it's a kind of, we're going to kind of be penny wise and dollar foolish here. Second, Japan hosts the largest military footprint the United States has anywhere in the world. It's the only country that has a permanent aircraft carrier. It is the long pole in our deterrence against China in the Indo-Pacific. And so, nothing stays just in the economic lane. It's a relationship. So that means national security, diplomatic support. It means political support, and it means economic support and integration. Second, imagine this. When the United States wants to put further sanctions on China as it relates to export controls for high tech, the only way it's successful is Japan, Korea, Taiwan, the Dutch stand shoulder to shoulder with the United States.
because the United States we are dependent upon that high-tech exports from China.
They're going to think real hard about whether we should stand with the United States or allow our companies to continue to export to China. So, relationships don't just have one lane. It's a series of things. You weigh equities against each other. So I think this is very short-sighted in this approach. There's a way you could have approached, as we did in years past, both when I worked for President Clinton, we did the 5 pillars on trade, etc. Japan now is the number one, as I said, number one foreign investor in the United States. Nearly 1 million Americans work for them. And of those, half are in the manufacturing industrial space. The exact job.
And what Ambassador Emmanuel also predicted back then, and it all came true. It's why we bring the best experts in these subject matter areas on the Midas Touch Network when corporate news is not doing that. He said, look, here's what China's going to do. Here's how China's planning this. Donald Trump is playing right into the hands of China. All of the hard work from the Obama administration, the Biden administration, Clinton administration, Donald Trump is flushing that down the drain. Play this clip.
Having been a person on the ground, helped create the trilateral between the United States, Japan, and Korea. And it was historic because it showed a united front and a clear, credible deterrent against China. China was very nervous. Now that we have decided to pull back, step back, and beat our allies like their adversaries, China is in the middle of having now had 2 meetings, both with Japan and Korea jointly, on both the foreign policy diplomatic front and also on the trade front. So they're going to reap all the advantages that we had built between the United States, Japan, and Korea. And so we're literally hurting not only our allies, but hurting the credibility of our deterrence against our number one threat, China. Sorry.
So, in other words, the action that the felon has taken is hurting our relationships, not with just only Japan, but with all of our allies, and it's causing other countries to communicate with each other, get together with each other, and figure out what they can do against the United States. That's hurting us. That's hurting the credibility of America.
To that, because you negotiated that. Speak to that, because people, I talk about it on the show a lot, how China is moving in and filling the void, both in terms of BRICS and also reaching out outside of BRICS with people and with countries that formerly allied with the U.S.
Here's what you should note. Ever since the United States in Ukraine showed a weakness and a vulnerability towards Putin, that very week or a week later, China did an unprecedented naval exercise against Australia, our ally. They had to shut down civilian air traffic near Sydney. They did an unprecedented move against Japan in the Sea of Japan. They did it against Vietnam. They did it in the Philippine area, and they did it on Taiwan Straits. So they see weakness. Weakness invites aggression. You have to be smart about your deterrence, but it is not an accident that both while China is talking to Japan and Korea, which are very important allies, they project our power. They reinforce the basic message of the United States that we are a permanent Pacific power and presence. You can bet long on us, versus China's theory, we're the rising power, the United States is declining power. You either get in line or you're going to get coercion. And in this situation, we built something that is a fundamental restructuring of the strategic landscape of the region, enhancing America's credibility of its deterrence. China took note of it. Now, all of a sudden, the administration's walked away from it. And China is stepping into that void and taking all the benefits and all the fruits of our hard work.
Now, at his awful press conference yesterday, Donald Trump was asked, so we're seeing Xi Jinping meeting now with allies. Does that scare you, Donald, that he's meeting with our allies now and cutting deals while you tariff the world? This is what Donald Trump says. Let's play it.
On China, Mr. President, you said you have China. You said in the past that you aren't worried about allies growing closer to China as a result of the tariffs. And this week we saw Chinese President Xi Jinping visit 3 of our allies. Should you be worried that they're growing closer?
No.
Mr. President, will you pick up the phone?
Nobody can compete with us. Nobody.
You said that you would.
Hear what he says so cavalierly. No, nobody can compete with us.
He's a
Nobody can
dumbass.
compete with us. This is Donald Trump continues to attack Canada, calling it the 51st state, saying he wants to annex and conquer Canada. Trump attacks Australia. Trump attacks Europe. May I show you this? Former President Biden. This is what took place August 18th, 2023. It's huge. You have former President Biden galvanizing world leaders and bringing together this historic summit. South Korea and Japan and the United States. In the past, something like this would be unthinkable. Watch former President Biden and contrast it to Donald Trump's behavior. Play this clip.
It's the first ever standalone summit between the leaders of Japan and Republic of Korea and the United States. And I can think of no better way to mark our new chapter of our trilateral cooperation than meeting here at Camp David. And so strengthening the ties between our democracies has long been a priority for me, dating back to when I was Vice President of the United States. That's because our countries are stronger and the world is safer. Let me say that again. Our countries are stronger and the world will be safer as we stand together. And I know this is a belief we all three share. And I want to thank you both for your political courage that brought you here. And I'm looking forward to us having a great meeting, but continuing these meetings. You stepped up to do the hard work, I would argue historic work, to forge a foundation from which we can face the future together, the three of us together. And I'm deeply grateful for your leadership, and I look forward to working with both of you as we begin this new era of cooperation and renew our resolve to serve as a force of good across the Indo-Pacific and, quite frankly, around the world as well.
Okay, so that's former President Biden. Contrast that to Donald Trump pulling out that board of those fake tariff numbers that Donald Trump came up with. And then he's talking about his conversations with the former prime minister of Japan who was assassinated. And just watch how despicable this is by Donald Trump here. Play this clip.
Understand? They're ripping us off, and they understood it. Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He was a fantastic man. He was unfortunately taken from us, assassination. But I went to him and I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. Trade is not fair. And he said, I know that. And he was a great gentleman. He was a fantastic man, but he understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. He said, I know that.
Now, you saw what Biden did. Here's what's happening now. We've been talking about it here on the Midas Touch Network. South Korea, China, and Japan working together to promote regional trade as Trump tariffs loomed. That's when they loomed. They were preparing for this. As Ambassador Rahm Emanuel said, this is what they were doing. And now you have Xi Jinping going to Vietnam, cutting deals with Australia, cutting deals with Europe and Canada, buying oil from them, not the United States. This ain't the art of the deal, Donald. You just look stupid and you've harmed America irreparably. And it's just so interesting to see foreign leaders just know his type. But these MAGA mush-brain morons who support this guy here in the United States, whose minds, their craniums have been turned into this globular red jelly mush by Fox. It's wild.
Okay, now a reminder, in the comments section adjacent to this video, there's a link that will take you to the contact page for your senator, regardless of the state you are in. Now remember, the 25th Amendment, Section 4 allows for a public to request the removal of a sitting president by their elected officials. And those officials that fail to listen to the public could result in them not being elected if us in the public can get our ducks together in a row and put the petty differences aside and see the huge damage that the felon is causing the United States. We make it clear that the felon is making reckless and dangerous decisions that weaken the safety and security of America and Americans, both domestically and across the globe. Just click on that link below, and then it will open up a page, and you select your state and click on Submit to take you to your senator's contact page. Note, please keep in mind exactly what you want to communicate, that is, remove the sitting president, because their the senator's contact pages often have a lot of verbiage, and you usually need to scroll a lot. Many of their web pages have self-promoting ads or lots of general issues that people have strong feelings about. But if you stay focused on this one issue of preventing further damage to the United States, domestically and internationally, then we should be okay. Thank you for watching.